Hi, it's Ileana here. So today I'm going to be discussing an article called Scientist Concludes Millions of Years Ago an Advanced Alien Race Existed on Mars. Before I start reading the article, I am going to read a little quote based on the image of the Mars face, which is famous. That's how we can tell that there were civilizations living on Mars millions of years ago. Based on new data, evidence that during this period of Earth-like climate, biological evolution produced at length a humanoid civilization, leaving ruins at several sites, Cydonia Mensa and Galaxis Chaos being two sites most intensively investigated. Data from these sites form the basis for the Cydonian hypothesis. Brandenburg, Dupétrère, and Molinar 1991 of an ancient indigenous, approximately Bronze Age civilization on Mars. Mars xenon is found to match closely the component in the Earth's atmosphere produced by Earth's nuclear weapons programs, both hydrogen bomb testing and plutonium production, both of which involve large amounts of fission with fast neutrons. It is found that Mars xenon can be approximated by a mixture of 70% nuclear testing xenon mixed with 30% natural Earth xenon, suggesting that Mars xenon was similar to Earth's before a large nuclear event altered it dramatically. So what this means was there was some kind of a nuclear explosion event on Mars millions of years ago, which stripped it of its full rich atmosphere with water, oxygen, trees, and animal life and human life. What I think happened is the inhabitants of Mars, the original colonists on Mars, went underground into the underground dome cities when the nuclear disaster happened. So they survived the disaster. And I don't completely agree with the article that they were Bronze Age civilization. I think they were more advanced civilizations on Mars, and something happened there to cause them to create nuclear weapons and to fight amongst themselves. Or maybe they were, what they were doing was fighting against another civilization that intruded on Mars. Maybe they tried to take their territory, and that's why there was war. Maybe they were defending their habitat, defending the right to be on Mars, the original colonists. So, and disaster happened, and basically they had to all go underground to survive the radiation, the nuclear fallout from all the blasting that happened on Mars, because Mars is scarred. There are sites on Mars that have scars all over the planet. So I think that's what happened. And like I said, I don't completely agree with the article that it's a Bronze Age society, because they can't create nuclear weapons. That just doesn't match up. And the reason why they wanted to investigate Mars was because of this famous Cydonia face. And some of the pyramids. That's why this is what the article is based on. Yeah. Yeah, that's what it's based on. So now I'm going to read the article. Mars is unlike any other celestial body in our solar system. Since time immemorial, the red planet has captured the imagination and interests of people around the globe, from the time of the Aztec, Inca, and Mayan empires to modern society in the 21st century. But what is it about Mars that makes us want to understand everything about it? Are we interested in Mars because we think there could be life there? Are we so interested in the red planet because there is a possibility that an advanced civilization may have flourished there once? It is ludicrous to think that life may have flourished once on Mars. According to a scientist who has worked on space plasma technologies, nuclear fusion, and advanced space propulsion, and invented the microwave electrothermal plasma thruster using water propellant for space propulsion, no, and Mars may have once sustained an extremely advanced alien civilization. Dr. John Brandenburg, a plasma physicist working as a consultant at Morningstar Applied Physics LLC and as a part-time instructor of astronomy, physics, and mathematics at Madison College and other learning institutions in Madison, Wisconsin, believes that in the distant history of Mars, when the red planet was much more similar to Earth, advanced alien civilizations developed there, and evidence of their existence can be found on the red planet today. Mars presents the human race with a Darwinian intelligence test, and so far we are failing it. Scientists cannot connect the dots at Mars because the resulting picture is too terrifying to accept. Quote. Not only does Dr. Brandenburg believe Mars was once inhabited, but he believes that data from Mars shows clear evidence of weapon signature isotopes, providing 2 massive nuclear airbursts in the northern regions of Mars had occurred in the distant past. So he says, I'm going to just read this again. Not only does Dr. Brandenburg believe Mars was once inhabited, but he believes that data from Mars shows clear evidence of weapon signature isotopes, proving 2 massive nuclear airbursts in the northern regions of Mars had occurred in the distant past. Very interesting. And here it shows the approximate locations of centers of nuclear explosions. It shows those 2 areas in the Cydonia Mensa and Galaxis Chaos. Now, I've seen these regions, and there are huge crater blasts there, like with huge holes that don't just look like craters made by asteroids or meteorites. So it does look like nuclear sites, like huge craters, blown up holes that aren't really craters. So I can attest to studying geography of Mars and seeing stuff like that in those regions. As it turns out, gas isotope xenon-129 is produced by nuclear reactions. Xenon-129 is produced only in small amounts by normal fission, but in a controversial hydrogen bomb explosion, it is produced in large amounts. So, the figure here, 10A, the approximate northern Martian Paleocean shoreline dashed line and approximate locations of possible nuclear explosions discussed in this article also show in Cydonia Mensa and Galaxis Chaos locations of reported artifacts. Arrows indicate prevailing winds and show the path of radioactive fallout. Present location of Mars rovers is also marked. So I'm just going back to this diagram where this all happened, the nuclear explosions. And I'm going to read another quote. The more we observe Mars, the more information we're getting that it really is a fascinating planet. From the Curiosity rover, we now know that Mars once was like a planet very much like Earth, with long salty seas, with freshwater lakes, probably with snow-capped peaks and clouds, and a water cycle just like we're studying here on Earth. Something has happened to Mars. it lost its water. John Grunsfeld, 5-time space-flown astronaut, associate administrator, head of NASA Science Mission Directive. Dr. John Brandenburg believes that there is clear evidence that at least 2 major nuclear explosions occurred on Mars, and that anyone who can read a map can find a correlation between Cydonia Mensa and Galaxis chaos and evidence of shock waves and fallout downwind. And there's also a video, Death on Mars. Evidence of an extraterrestrial nuclear massacre. Presentation by Dr. John Brandenburg. I'll provide a link to the article in the video discussing this article, so folks can have a look at that video if you'd like. In a lecture, Dr. Brandenburg stated that there is conclusive evidence of a Bronze Age type of civilization which was destroyed by a massive nuclear blast. Furthermore, Dr. Brandenburg states that the U.S. government has been aware of this evidence since 1976. Dr. Brandenburg further states that the Martian civilization was not nearly advanced enough to have created the nuclear blasts by themselves, and that they must have been destroyed by another civilization. Secrecy within government is an evil that's sometimes necessary, but I think it's a good thing that this cover-up on Mars is ending, and hopefully at some point we can sit down and have a frank conversation, not about what happened on Mars 250 million years ago, but what is happening right now. I don't really agree with this quote, the statement. I think we should talk about what happened on Mars 250 million years ago, what caused those nuclear explosions, what civilizations lived on the planet, because I don't agree that what this article says that the civilization on Mars was Bronze Age. I think there were more advanced civilizations on Mars that were capable of creating nuclear blast technology, creating nukes, and I think there was some kind of war possibly on Mars, or they were defending their own territory against invading extraterrestrials that wanted to take over Mars. That's another possibility, or just infighting amongst themselves of some type. And Mars is really scarred. There's like scars all over the planet and evidence of nuclear blasting. So I think we should talk about what happened on Mars 250 million years ago, because we have nuclear warheads, we have nuclear power right now, so we're at the same stage as the Martians probably were when this happened a long time ago. And basically, any civilization that are capable of building pyramids as huge as these are that are on Mars or other monoliths, they're quite advanced. So I just don't agree with this article that it's a Bronze Age civilization. I think it was much more advanced than that. And we need to look at all the history of Mars to figure it out, and to also know what's happening on Mars right now, because I'm sure there's secret space program assets on Mars. I'm sure there's military involved, and they have their military bases there on the planet, and we've been to Mars. So that's worth discussing right now too, to expose it all. What happened 215 million years ago and what's happening there now. It's all news that is worth exploration, and we need to know about it. So it's time to unveil the secrets, and it's time to tell us the truth about it. So thank you and namaste.